This is Lisa from MobileTechReview, and this is the Samsung Galaxy S24 Plus. Now, sometimes Samsung only sends us the Ultra for review, and I'm glad that they sent us the Plus, because I've always felt like it's that kind of just Goldilocks, just right in between for a lot of people. We're going to look at it now. So obviously, if you're a phone aficionado, which a lot of folks who watch YouTube videos about phones probably are, you're going to want the Ultra to get the best of everything. The bigger screen, the S Pen, the new anti-glare treatment to the screen. But for the rest of the folks out there who say $1,300 for a phone, wow, I didn't spend that for my laptop, is a bit much, the S24 and 24 Plus are there as options as well. Obviously, the S24 is also for those of you who like smaller phones. Many manufacturers don't even make premium smaller phones anymore, so I'm glad Apple and Samsung are still doing that. And the S24 Plus is a bigger screen phone. In fact, gotten bigger this year without making the phone really significantly bigger. So 6.7-inch display, and finally it's up to 1440p or QHD resolution instead of full HD resolution. So more appropriate, getting closer towards the Ultra there. You also get a new processor, new year, new processor always. Snapdragon 8 Gen 3, at least in the United States. Some other countries are going to get the Samsung Exynos, unlike the Ultra where you get Qualcomm all the time. But this year, from what I'm reading, the Exynos isn't that bad. You can look at European reviews and any other that you like where they do get the Exynos version if you wanted to see about the performance of that. But it looks like it's not that bad this year, Samsung's own CPU. You also get longer battery life, a little bit higher battery capacity for the S24 and S24 Plus, and more efficiency in the processor optimizations. So it used to be the Ultra was like the iPhone 15 Pro Max. I mean, the just can't kill it, right? Runs more than a day for a lot of people. And the two smaller phones, cheaper phones, they are not so much. Well, they've gotten a lot better, and the S24 Plus is lasting about as long as the Ultra, which makes sense. It has a 4,900 milliamp battery now, and the Ultra has a 5,000 milliamp battery, so it should, right? And especially because the screen's a little bit smaller on this one. Even the S24, though, gets upped in battery capacity, too, and no longer is it, oh, the small phone with the terrible battery life because it's a small phone. Well, that's good stuff there. Display also goes up to 2600 nits maximum brightness, just like the Ultra does, and that's in automatic mode when you're like outdoors in bright sunlight. It's not going to do that indoors in a movie theater where it's dark or something like that, but you get the idea. And lastly, there are those Samsung AI features, which I covered more in depth in our Ultra review, so just watch if you want. I will cover it some here, but nice to have, but also something that's going to come to the S23 family of phones, the Fold 5 and the Z Flip 5, so you don't have to get one of these particularly just to get the AI features for photo editing and live transcription of phone calls in different languages, translation, you know, that sort of stuff. Yeah. So as always, if you're thinking about the S24 Plus versus the Ultra, like I said, you're not going to get the S Pen, a little bit smaller display, a little bit more rounding to the design of the Ultra, even though it has flat glass now too. Nothing gets flatter than this. This is iPhone level flatty McFlat phone, right? Those are the biggies, and the anti-glare glass treatment, I don't think that's going to keep you up at night so much. So that's what you're giving up there. The display on this is 120 Hz variable refresh. It's OLED, of course, and there was some brouhaha over the S24 Ultra having washed out colors, which I think was a software issue. Ours did not have that. The ones I looked at in retail stores didn't have that. But anyway, nobody's complaining about that with the S24 Plus. I'm not seeing that. It's a vibrant, beautiful, large display. It's good, folks, so I think you're going to enjoy that. Is it going to be very different from the S23 Plus display other than the maximum brightness difference? Not so much. You get 8 gigs of RAM with the S24, 12 gigs with the S24 Plus. So you're looking at about the same RAM as you're going to get on an Ultra these days. For storage, it's 128 and 256 gig for the S24. For the S24 Plus that we have here, you can get 256 or 512 gigs of storage. As ever, the micro SD card slot, RIP, none of that expandable storage anymore. Boo. You have 5G, both millimeter wave and sub-6 as you would expect. You got NFC, all the usual connectivity stuff. Now the specs on the cameras are pretty much the same as last year. So you're looking at largely software improvements, better night mode, all of that sort of thing. Not a reason to upgrade this year. 50 megapixel main camera, you've got your 12 megapixel ultra wide, and you have a 3x optical 10 megapixel telephoto camera on board. Both the S24 and the S24 Plus have the same cameras, and you get a 12 megapixel front-facing camera. Very competent. You know, you're not going to look at this and take some pictures and say, oh my God, the Ultra is so much better. Unless you're doing that telephoto thing, and that's where obviously the Ultra has the leg up, with higher resolution cameras and also with extended telephoto range. So if telephoto is super duper important to you, well, obviously, then you might be thinking about the Ultra, but otherwise, I even did some digital zooming with this. There's one bird picture on the fence post there, and that's at almost 20x digital zoom at that point, and it's not horrible. So I mean, they're fine. They're very nice cameras, and they should be. These are not cheap phones. $999 for the S24 Plus, $799 for the S24. Obviously, Samsung has great trade-in deals, carriers have deals, retailers have deals, so you can easily pay less than that if you're going to shop around for this. But still, I mean, they're premium phones, and you get premium level cameras. You get 7 years of OS updates now. Again, you know, certainly security updates as to whether they can do major version upgrades 7 years from now, if the processor will support it and the hardware and all this sort of thing, we'll find out. But you're covered, and I think it's more important for the S24 and S24 Plus. I think Ultra buyers are enthusiasts who probably upgrade more often. A lot of people who buy the S24 Plus and standard models tend to keep their phones a bit longer. So at least you know you're good, you're safe, you're secure, you're kept up to date. Now the AI features, just to cover them again in brief here, you've got Circle the Search, which is something that's also on the Google Pixel 8 and 8 Pro. So you see something, a coffee maker that you like, you circle with your finger, and it will come up with matches and information. It's obviously, Google's good at shopping, but you can use it to look up anything that you want, you know, so that's kind of handy stuff. They have a photo editing feature that's not quite as good as Google's, even though it's probably based on similar technology. But anyway, you know, obviously you can remove things you don't like. You take a picture of a living room and you think the couch doesn't look good there, right? So you circle with your finger and you want just a generative AI, a generative fill, and to fill in the background. But sometimes it picks some other random object and fills that in there instead, which is totes weird. Sometimes interesting, but weird. And then there's the transcription of meetings, so you don't actually have to take notes anymore. And then there's an executive summary feature, which does a pretty good job. And lastly, there is a live translation of phone calls, supports several different languages. And you know, I think face-to-face translation is a little more useful than phone calls, where you don't have body language and other things to help and all that sort of thing, but it is there for you. I'm not sure this is going to sell folks on phones a whole lot, but in a couple of years when I think of more things to do with this, it will. I believe that Samsung says until 2025 these features are free, but there might be a fee after that though, so keep that in mind. As ever, you have Qi wireless charging. Reverse wireless charging is still the Qi 1 standard, so no MagSafe, but there are cases that can add that on afterwards. And that's it. That's the Samsung Galaxy S24 Plus. It's not going to send you upgrading from the S23 Plus, and these days with phones being more iterative updates and adding things on, we're not surprised. But if you're coming from a 3, 4, 5-year-old Samsung phone and you're looking for the next great thing that you can get, well, I mean, they fit the bill. It's a delightful, gorgeous looking phone that comes in slightly more zingy colors than the Ultra does. And it ain't cheap at $1,000, but like I said, with Samsung, there's always deals to be had, so you can get it for less. I'm Lisa from Mobile Tech Review. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel for more cool tech videos, and thumbs up if you like this vid.